Hello, and welcome to our first ever magazine flip through where we'll be featuring Cat Fancy from December 1987. So, a quick thing before I get into this, I plan to go through vintage cat magazines to kind of take you back in time and give you that experience. So I really encourage you to kind of lay back with like a cup of tea or a blanket and get cozy as you go back in time with me. Also, as this is my first ever video recording like this, I am a bit nervous and this is a new format for me. I have done some social media stuff before, but not where I'm just flipping through, kind of summarizing, giving my take on certain things. So this being a new format for me, I was quite nervous going into it. I did read this entire magazine earlier today, and I will say I had a really, really great time. So if you have the opportunity to pick up any of these vintage magazines, I highly suggest it. They are really fun reads. It's not like we're going to be going through and reading everything because that would just be hours. And for copyright reasons, I'm really not allowed to do that. So it's just us kind of appreciating what was. And I will say, in prepping for this, I have like Googled Cat Fancy. For me as a child, Cat Fancy always meant something. I love the magazine. And now going back and like Googling it, it made me a little sad. One, because it's not around anymore. And two, there's misconceptions. Some of the first videos pop up are about how they really prioritize purebred lines, and reading this magazine, that was just not the case. It was very, very cat owner friendly for the normal person. And when it says a magazine for responsible cat owners, that's exactly what this is. The nice thing about these magazines is when you flip inside, they do immediately tell you about the cover cat. So this is a 2-month-old Maine Coon from Callicoon Cattery in Elmhurst, Illinois. So when you flip it open, right away you're introduced with a fun ad. I will say it is really cool to see like ads from back in the day because they're stuff you haven't heard of, or they're like nostalgic or really interesting. So this is apparently a kitty litter brand by Edward Lowe, and I think it's interesting they put like a little bacteria control test on here. And of course, there's our 99% dust free, which is on like every cat litter, I swear. And it's just like, I'm not sure where they're getting this 99% number from, because if it was 98, I'm pretty sure like my house wouldn't be breathable. So I just think it's funny that they're all just 99. I wonder if that's like one of those like things you're allowed to falsely advertise. I think it's really interesting that like every cat litter has it. But yeah, getting into this, the first article we have here, it's called Applause for Tika, and it's by Linda Lewis. And Linda is super passionate in this article. I will say it was really fun to read this as my first kind of get into this. And it's about how TICA, the International Cat Association, has made it so household cats have to be neutered and spayed in order to be entered into a household pet competition. And this was seen as controversial, one, because there's people that didn't understand why their cats had to be altered at all. Back in this time, it still wasn't the most common thing to alter your household pets. Even today, a lot of people don't do it, which is certainly a contributing factor to overpopulation. Now, she takes this really hard though. She says that when you don't alter your mainstream pets, those in everyday households, you are contributing to the overpopulation of cats and the euthanasia in animal shelters, because these cats eventually make it out into the world, and sometimes you'll even gift a kitten, and that kitten may or may not be spayed or altered. Then that cat has babies, which contributes to that as well. Even if you're responsible enough to find those kittens homes, like you have a really special cat, you love your cat, and you want your cat to have babies, which is something I've understood and certainly felt like your mixed breed cats you bring home from shelters, sometimes they're just like, they are so special, they become your everything, and you would have loved to have their babies, right? But when you finally give them a home, it doesn't mean those babies won't also have babies and that those babies won't become outdoor cats, which contribute to this mass shelter problem we have. So I think that's really interesting because she notes how controlled breeding programs are necessary because we wouldn't have any Siamese or Persians or Himalayans anymore. It would just be mixed breed cats, and those controlled breeding programs, she claims, are not contributing to overpopulation. They're not the cats you see on the streets. And I'm sorry about this little bell sound if you hear it. My cat is playing with a toy. And she actually invites people who are against altering their household pets to actually go and watch the euthanasia sessions at any shelter or play judge and jury yourself about which cat would live and which would die. So this is a definitely super good breed. She's very passionate, and I do love that. I like her stance on breeds because I do believe breeds are important to keep. They contribute to a diversity within the cat population, and even dogs. Like, it would just be a shame to lose certain breeds. So I think that's really interesting to point out. Also, I think another thing is really cool is these magazines. It's a shame they're not around because when you're online, you're not always searching for certain topics and they wouldn't even come to your attention, right? So like these magazines are very educational for those certain type of things. So you have things like about dissection and how this particular person views dissection as not the study of life, but the study of death. And dissection itself leads to students becoming desensitized to their natural sympathies, which they believe become adults who are blocked from empathizing with animal suffering. So I feel like that's actually a really interesting point of view because desensitization is definitely a thing. It's something I feel like I bring up all the time, not about this particular topic, but just about like true crime. Like, I love true crime and horror movies. And I will say, like, it just seems like we get, darker and darker and more crazy with it. And we have to learn more details because we're so desensitized, it becomes less interesting and less horrific, which is terrifying. I also like that this person didn't know how to properly introduce a cat or a new kitten into their household, and they actually followed the advice of this magazine, and they were able to do it in a way where they're both thriving together now. So I feel like that kind of advice is really important because a lot of the times people won't look this up. They'll just throw a cat into their house and, kind of feel around what they think is appropriate. I also like that they call this column the litter box, and it's letters, it's mail that comes into the magazine, which I think is really cute. So over here we have holiday safety, and I think that is super important. So it mentions things like to keep poinsettias and mistletoe like off the ground where your cats can reach them. Also hang up like glass and potentially toxic ornaments like away from the bottom of your tree, and to avoid things completely like tinsel, angel hair, spray snow, and strings, because swallowing these things for a cat can actually cut up their intestine and threaten their life. So I think that's really important. I love that in this like Christmas issue we have things that are actually really relevant to like stuff like that. Also talks about like don't feed them certain holiday foods because these are not cat foods, right? They cannot digest these. They are obligate carnivores, and that's important to remember. Also, if your cat goes outside, do not let them eat the salt or ice melting chemicals because again, that is toxic. And also, if your cats are just walking on those chemicals, that can be extremely painful for them because it can irritate their paw pads. This I love. They needed cats for a study, but it's such an important study. It's a disease dealing with the heart muscle called cardiomyopathy, and this lady essentially needed more cats to test out her treatment. And this is a treatment that was working and helping cats that may not have been able to get any useful assistance otherwise, because the alternative medication for this disease was something that wasn't even great because it like slowed your heart rate down. So I thought that was interesting because it doesn't seem like a great thing, but it was useful in terms of the particular disease and like helping slow or prevent things. So I really love that there's a section for this because I think it's really cool to know about certain things like this, because doing your own research can be hard to do. And having such a useful asset like this magazine that said things like this, I feel like is super cool, because it might have been things you never heard about before. And your vet may not even know about these things, right? So I think it's really useful. I think that was a real benefit that we don't get to have, and felt like we really need to go to like scientific journals to read about. So I love that there's just like a clinical study here that can help save your cat's life. And also, Betty White received an award here for the American Association of Veterinary Medicine. And this is an award that would go out annually to someone who really contributed to the animal community. And she actually had a nonprofit organization called the Morris Animal Foundation that funded studies of disease and health problems for not only cats, but a lot of other animals. This one's really fun because it's well-trained cats or happy cats, which this guy had a problem where his cats were running under his feet when he was like trying to get his dinner ready because they thought they were going to get food as well. So he trained them to go on stools because their dogs, they could sit on carpets, right? Cats are not fond of being on the ground. They love to be high up. So he thought to train them to go on stools. So he would tap these stools, feed them on there, and eventually those cats just jumped on those stools all the time, and he never had a problem of tripping over them anymore. And I just thought that was really awesome and something like you don't really think about, but cats are very trainable creatures, and they love and are very excited by those certain things. Like if you like tap here and there's like a cat over there, your cat's likely to come to you because it's excited. You're interacting with it. This one's interesting because it has to do with a leash that you would put in your yard. It's very interesting to me. I wouldn't even do it today because it's just funny, but I don't know. I'm assuming it worked well. It was endorsed by the Humane Society. I don't know. In my mind, I get scared that something can come and hurt them and they can't run away. So I think that's my main issue with it. Also, like, what if they get caught up in the string? Cats are lovely, cats are smart, but things happen. Also, this ad here, which is digestible milk for your cat, is them recommending putting Lactaid in milk for your cat so they don't get upset stomachs. Because if you don't already know, cats are lactose intolerant, and Lactaid helps suppress the lactase enzyme that makes it difficult to digest. I've never heard of giving Lactaid to cats. Don't do it just because it's here. Just saying, guys. Not everything is going to be a vetted thing, right? We've learned, it's been years. Don't, like, do everything you see. I will put at the bottom of this what I have found, if that ever, like, hurt any cats or what have you. But I personally just would avoid giving them milk altogether and maybe find a milk substitute. Sure, it's a little more pricey, but if you really want to give your cat a milk-like substance, just do it safely. The challenge of an orphan kitten is what all foster parents know well. It's you get a kitten, she may or may not do well and then passes away. And this basically encourages you not to give up because these cats need help. And I really love that message. Also, this is kind of cool because apparently white glue contained or contains milk, and cats are attracted to that. So they will eat it if you leave it out. So I found that interesting. Taurine, still an issue today. This is a terrifying read because they discovered the dietary requirement for taurine 10 years prior to this magazine. And they discovered it because young cats being fed a particular diet that didn't have any developed visual impairments that led to total blindness, and that is horrifying. Taurine is an essential nutrient. Many animals are able to produce it on their own. Cats, however, cannot manufacture enough to meet their metabolic needs. And later, it was also found that taurine not only affects eyesight, but their heart. So it would actually contribute to a degeneration of their heart muscle. And that's something they just unfortunately don't really come back from. So making sure they have enough nutrients is critical. It's terrifying because I know I hear about taurine all the time today. So not every diet has the efficient amount of taurine that your cat still needs. And the people messing with that, like knowing that it's critical, just boils my blood. Article does say not to blame food companies because they do adjust their levels after studies, but adjusting them to what is required by like organizations rather than what is needed and necessary is a whole nother thing. So I think it's important to always like check what you're buying and if it has enough of the proper nutrients, because your cats may develop health issues later down the line that are attributed to that, and it's really sad. Cute little Fancy Feast ad. I really love this like homage of cats here. It's very cute. We got a little Persian, looks like a British, some tabbies, so cute. Looks like that one's probably a Maine Coon. But yeah, Fancy Feast, gourmet cat food. Their classic pate has a great protein content, just FYI, and protein is super important to our carnivores, so. A lot of vets today turn their nose at Fancy Feast, but will recommend you certain diets that are actually really bad for your cats. So I think that's interesting because in veterinary school, they don't always teach you what's great for your cat, right? They are taught what they should recommend, but not taught like exactly what that means for your cats all the time. So, yeah, cats apparently have always loved watching TV. This is great because I have a TV just for my cats. It was my grandmother's old TV, and now they have it in like my studio room in this current room. I don't have it on right now because you would go mad over the bird sounds. This one's all about music. It's really fun read. Talks about how like certain cats like rock music, some don't, some like really loud music, some like it soft, some love like you playing instruments or things like that. They'll also associate things like if their previous owner played an instrument and you try to play it, it brings them a lot of happiness, stuff like that. It's very beautiful. Then we have some cute gifts, cute little ornaments, some plates. I feel like I'm always seeing plates when it comes to like vintage stuff. I do really like them. I don't trust myself with like porcelain things all the time and glass because I am really clumsy, but these are really beautiful. So these are actually some book reviews. I do plan on getting into a lot of like vintage and antique cat books as well, so I don't necessarily want to read any like reviews on them because I'll kind of be doing it like with you guys. And we have some Buddha products, scratching post, litter box, little cat bed. So this article, Do Cats Go to Heaven, I thought was really interesting to gain that kind of like insight of what people might think. It does give multiple perspectives. It is about like 4 pages and there's a lot of quotes like from the Bible in it. There's some like parts from like a PhD, a pastor, and the general gist is that the person who wrote the main article does believe they do go to heaven. That was a nice thing to kind of read about. It's the holiday time when this came out, so I do really like that. But they give direct quotes from the Bible and why they think the way they think. It is really interesting. But my favorite part has to be like toward the end here where they talked about forgiveness and how forgiveness is really important to God. The Bible says if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven and you wouldn't go to heaven. And from that, you kind of think about animals and their capacity for forgiveness is so strong. They are so easy to forgive. So to the writer of this, that is one of the strongest like reasons. I think that's really beautiful because that shows like the emotionality of animals too. And to acknowledge that and also to say like that just makes them so pure and good and is what would get them into heaven. I think that is really beautiful. So if you ever get a chance to read that article, it is quite interesting. We also have a self-cleaning litter box ad. So I think this is interesting. Around this time, there was not a lot of self-clumping litter. I keep seeing things about how you would throw away your litter. So the self-cleaning litter box, it didn't like get rid of your waste to one side. What it would do is you would have fresh litter come in and the old litter would just be like flipped to the other side. So I thought that was interesting. It's funny how like I thought that was kind of a newer thing because there's a lot of people that are against clay litter and will just change out their entire litter pan every time. So I found that really interesting because it's obviously something that was the common before and now isn't the common. This whole serving animal columns is beautiful because it's all about animal rights and the issues that were currently at hand and how they wanted to make sure like animals were treated humanely when they had to be tested on. There's also this really interesting clause about how a lot of housing just did not allow any pets. And there was nothing you could do to get around that policy before, whereas today we have workarounds, right? And it's because of people advocating for it that we do have these workarounds. So things where you speak to your landlord, have letters written. I personally have such a connection with my cats emotionally that I can't imagine being a person that didn't have any because I don't know how I would function properly. And I think that's really important because you have a lot of people that may live on their own, are lonely or elderly, and they weren't allowed to have any pets before. So I really love that they were advocated for, not only for these pets to like get off the street, but also for humans that need that emotional connection. So Carol, in this Cats on the Couch column, wrote about traveling and meeting people's cats, people that would have issues with cats, right? So this one had like a kid coming along, and the cat was called Lefty. It was very territorial. It was not very friendly. And this unfriendly, like, cat senality is what they called it. Derived from a loss of a cat that used to be in the household that underwent a spaying at the same time as her and did not survive. And she became a very angry cat after that. And so with this baby coming along, these people got really worried. And so Carol came along and said, there's certain changes that needs to happen. First, you have to get rid of the single cat syndrome. She needs to be introduced to a new friend that she can bond with and the family can really benefit from. And I've always thought that a cat introduced to another cat that becomes their best friend is such a beautiful relationship. They also recommended no longer calling her Lefty, but naming her Lefty Lou. So Lefty Lou would not have the same negative connotation on the human's parts for calling her Lefty, and just calling the cat that. The cat has been associated negatively so long, and I thought that was really interesting to just kind of like add something to the name to make it feel like a different time in her life. And they believe that this would result in a well-balanced cat personality, and I thought that was really beautiful. I'm 100% all about that kind of thing. I've always believed that more cats were helpful, and that's probably how I ended up with 11. Yes, I know. Talk about cat phobia. To talk about male phobia, which that's definitely a thing with pets, and it's important that males be not as aggressive when they try to get cats' attention. Women are usually softer, more empathic, and nurturing, and even though it's done with the best intentions, a lot of males will go in it a little too aggressively, will want to force their attention upon the cat. And that kind of results in this phobia. So to break down that phobia, you kind of have to know how to properly act around a cat. And then once she trusts you, then you can be a little more crazy, right? But to gain that trust is super important. Cats are very beautiful, forgiving creatures, and they learn. There are certain ways because they learn to be that way. This article was hilarious because the slimming of flat Chloe, so apparently she became really massive and the vet recommended her being put on a wet food diet, right? So she was just feeding her cats a dry food. Dry food itself is has a lot of fat and actually is not great for cats because it's like the equivalent of them eating McDonald's. So I think it's really interesting that the wet food seemed like a diet food to this lady because she wouldn't let her other cats eat the wet food. Like, she had Chloe locked in a crate when she would feed her, and she's like, oh yeah, the other cats want it, but they don't really know what it is. And I'm like, oh god, those poor cats. They're really missing out. This one's all about how fat cats are not cute cats, and how it's important to actually monitor their weight and help them because they don't know particularly how to help themselves. they think they're at their metabolic prime like their whole lives. So you kind of have to come in and like set the rules and the boundaries. Like they're like little babies, you know, they don't know better. All right, Fancy Cats of 1987. This one's adorable. I love old pictures of cats. This one's just in a tree. I feel like we can all relate to that. This one's so cute. His name is Hyatt, and every time they bring out this nativity scene on Christmas, he sleeps in the manger. Like, how adorable is that? They actually had to move the baby Jesus out of it because he would just lay on it. And I think that's incredibly sweet. And he actually gets really sad when they put it away. And I'm like, no. But yeah. This article, by the way, beautiful, beautiful read. These are all rescue cats, and these people had just their lives changed by the love of these cats. And I love to hear stories like that. This magazine is so feel good, so insightful, so educational. I really love that. Like, it makes you feel good to know, like, cats have been loved for a long time. Here we have this like calendar, which is cute. The Betsy Ross one gets me. Like, that's just too adorable. This cat reminds me of my cat Anakin, and I'm obsessed. My cat is like the brown and white equivalent. Then we have Traveling in Style, which is all about different cat carriers. So you have your cheapest, like cardboard or corrugated cardboard ones. A ton of different carriers, which is really interesting. And what I love about this article is they're not just like advertising what carriers there are. They're also saying that your carrier should be your cat's security box when you're traveling. So a lot of people know this, and I'm assuming not everyone does, so I'm going to mention it. But you should be leaving your carrier out for your cat to get used to treat as a home, to treat as a safety net, a security blanket. It's really important for cats to have these in times of stress. Their carrier should not be a terrifying experience. It should be like their beacon. Like, performing cats in movies will willingly jump and run across sets if their carrier is just on the other side of that set. And I think that's really awesome. Also, we have things like the sling. I feel like that's around right now, too. The Kitty Go! This is a wooden carrier that you just, like, place on your seat in the back. Yeah, that seems like it doesn't seem like a fun carrier. I don't know if my cats would ever like that. I don't know, they might play through it. This one I'm not particularly fond of because some bags are fine, but this one doesn't look particularly wide, and it also advertises that the Beast bag can go under airplane seats, and I feel like this just feels like a suffocating experience. Now, it says that these two can as well, but as you see, they have wider bottoms, and I like that. So I wouldn't mind putting this on the under the airplane seat as much as I would this. This I would feel really uncomfortable about. This carrier is just weird. Yeah, it's meant to look like a monster with a mouth. I don't know. And then we have these Alco carriers, which are really like a lot of cat shows use these, which are interesting. They're like suitcases, easy to carry. Oh, before I switch to the next page, this Seen in the Dark ad. So if your cat goes outside, this is a reflector. So like if you go jogging outside, you would have something on your vest or on your bike. If you're riding a bike, you put this around your cat. So if a motorist approaches it, they will see it, which I thought that's really interesting because I've never seen anyone use that. But if your cat has to be outside, right? I think that's actually pretty interesting. Oh, this carrier. It is, what is this? Like a wicker? Yeah, I love it. My cats would be obsessed with this. And also you could leave this around the house and it not look bad. It just looks like a cute little tunnel for them to go into. These kennel ones just remind me of my childhood. I don't really like them because I just think they look kind of sterile, but they are useful, so. Oh, this is hilarious. Fantastic article. So essentially the bride of an Air Force lieutenant. In their new place, they lived on like a 3rd-story apartment. The husband didn't think it was a good idea to have a cat. Landlady didn't let anyone have cats, and she has always loved cats. So she thought it'd be a great idea when she went to go visit her family to smuggle home a kitten that I believe it was her sister's cat, gave birth to. She stayed there for over 5 weeks, so the cat was already well weaned and eating and perfectly fine by the time they went on this train trip that was 18 hours long. It was horrible because she was forced to put the cat in the luggage compartment of this train because she wasn't allowed to have it with her. And when she went to go check on it at some point during the train ride, it was buried underneath all of the luggage and all its air holes were covered. So I'm really glad she went to go check because that could have been a bad situation. There was like 2 attendants in the back. They helped find the kitten. because they told her, hey, there's no kitten on this train. She's like, hey, yeah, there is. So that's really terrifying. But the kitten was absolutely fine. And it's a really, really sweet story. I really love that. This one broke my heart. A 70-year-old man had lost his cat of 16 years, and he was out of shelter, and he was just horribly sad. And he couldn't afford a new cat. He couldn't afford the adoption fee. This lady that would come and donate stuff ended up getting the cat he wanted for him. And it was just like, it was incredibly beautiful. I really love that. Like, he just lit up. You can tell how important his previous relationship with his cat was to him. And I just love that she was there to step in because it was really hard. It was hard to read. And then we have like an ad section. Let's see if there's anything we don't really use today. We got posters, ID tags. I love that they would advertise like toys like this. The litter box sham is hilarious to me because it's a cover for your litter box. So I just think it's funny. Like, you would have a pillow sham. Here's a litter box sham to make it look more cute. This is also a litter box cover, which I think is really cool. It reminds me of like the cardboard houses I have right now for my cats that they play in. Then we have some cool last minute gift ideas for your cats. We have, this is not really for your cat, but it's a video about owning cats. Then you have some catnip balls and cat tunnels and beds, which is really cute. Ooh, I do love this like scratching post right here. This wood design. I love having like live wood in scratching posts. I think that is so beautiful and makes a scratching post just like look so much more elegant and elevated. Like, I really adore that. Let's see. I'm not sure how this would work out, this kitten gym. It looks like a hamster wheel kind of thing. But like, it's a ball, not a wheel. Very interesting. I don't know if, if I ever have a kitten again, I want to try something like that. But I've never seen like it for sale, so I don't know how well it would be used. Also, when they grow up, they're not going to fit in it, right? So you're just going to have this weird wheel around. But, no, I was going to say it'd be a good shelter gift, but then if they're in crates, it's not a good gift because they can't really wheel around. I don't know. What do you think of that? I don't know. It's weird. Then we have, this is so funny. They got a secondhand like fold out bed from like a neighbor, and when they opened it up, there was a kitten inside that had just like hid itself. And that's kind of scary, right? Because I feel like I could feel like I died in there. Like, I don't know, but it was really weird. She heard it crying, she opened it up, and she found it. But this little girl didn't have any friends, and this kitten belonged to a little girl, and they became friends. And I thought that was really cute. Then we have our show calendar for like all the cat shows. That's kind of like a brief mention. And then we get right into like the breeder directory. I remember being a kid and loving looking at breeder directories because they would have little pictures of the cats. And I would always look at the pictures. Look at this Asa cat. It's crazy. Do you ever miss directories like this without the tokenese? Oh, its ears are so cute. Then naturally, we have our, the gift you can give other people, which is this magazine. I would have been obsessed to have like a monthly subscription of. The sad part is I don't even have any of my magazines I used to have. I'm sure my grandmother like sold them at yard sale or something. There's also this like classified section. Sorry, my cat's flight is going away. This is fun because it's all like, it's books, it's cat toys, it's employment opportunities, collars and tags and flea control products, all for your cat. So you can just go to one place and read through the products and see if you would want anything for your cat, which I really like. Also, I must have passed it, but there was like a first aid kit, which was honestly really cool. I feel like everyone should have a first aid kit for your cat. I don't. I've been looking into it. Yes, here it is. Okay. So this may save your cat's life. I love that. I love the idea of first aid kit. If your cat consumes a poison, you can give it something to help counteract that, stuff like that. I think it's really cool. I feel like every cat owner should be trained in like first aid for their cat. Like, I feel like I'm lacking, and that something happening to my cat scares me all the time. So I don't know. I really like that. I really like that. I would have bought that. I would have bought like 10. Then we got some cats being cute, and we've got this very 70s Crave. It's cat food. I like the stare, the hint, the victory, the reward. That's so cute. And we end with this Amore gourmet cat food ad, which I think is really sweet. I love that it's an older gentleman on here. I think that is adorable, especially because it's important to note that cat people are not all crazy cat ladies. We are in all shapes and forms. So I think that was really cool. I hope I didn't talk your ear off. I feel like I talked way too much from what I'm supposed to about these kind of things, so I don't know. When I edit it, I'll like kind of decide from there. If you have any tips about this format, I can't like let you like sit, linger, and read these magazines because it is a copyright issue. We can talk about them, we can critique them and have our viewpoints, but of course, if you would like to read this, you can find them. It is a harder find, but you can definitely find them. I kind of hope that one day there'll be like large omnibuses of these cat magazines available, but to be honest, I don't even know if the people that currently own the rights to like Cat Fancy or Cats Magazine have like the old copies at their disposal to make such a thing, which if they don't is a shame because I hate lost history. Especially like I felt like that didn't need to happen. But I hope you enjoyed this week's video of Cat Fancy December 1987. This right here is my kitty Tapreen. Tapringo! Hi baby, you cool? Yeah. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Please let me know what you think of this magazine and any kind of feedback, because I would love to hear it. Thank you so much.